Alright, hi everyone, this is Pon Liang here. Due to I don't really have much time to prepare an even better video, so I'm just going to just narrate over the videos that I did, okay, that I recorded on how to draw the ray diagram. So I want this for you guys to actually do this particular ray diagram tomorrow from 10:30 to 11:30, and then submit your ray diagrams into the Google Classroom. Alright, so I'm gonna start this. Alright, so what you need right now is a graph paper, ruler, and also your pen or pencil. If you do not have graph paper, you can actually use the test pad or you can use your exercise book. But for practice purposes, I would really strongly recommend for you guys to actually use your graph paper because the measurements are all there already. So you don't. It's actually to simplify your working if you actually use graph paper for practices. Alright, so let's start. So the first thing you're going to do is actually to draw the principle of the axis. So I hope all of you are ready. So first thing, draw a principal axis. As you notice at the graph paper, I did have sufficient space over there. So the next is actually to draw the axis of the lens. So I took 3 centimeter above the principal and 3 centimeter below the principal of the axis. And then I draw the curve to represent my convex lens. Alright, so I will have my convex lens ready. So here our focal length, I assume it to be 2 centimeter. So I'm going to mark 2 centimeters and 2 centimeters. Okay, so what I did here is, okay, let me play this and pause. So this 2 centimeters is considered for the focal point, alright? And then the next one is going to be for the center of the curve, which I labeled it as 2F. Okay, so that would be focal point 2F representing the center of the lens. That's F and 2F. So with this we are ready with the basic one. Okay, so let's go next. This is actually the basic picture of how we're going to draw the ray diagram. So we have the principal axis over there, and then we have the axis of the lens over here, and then me drawing the curve of the convex lens. So it's not a perfect curve, but you all can understand, can see that it's actually a convex lens. Then we have F. Alright, that represents 2 centimeter. That's the reason why I use a graph paper, because directly I don't have to measure it. The graph already shows me the 2 centimeter. And 2F actually represents the center of the curve. So over here, because this particular curve is actually created from the center of the curve, which is this location. So 2F represents the center of the curve for the second surface over here. Alright, so I hope you guys understand that. Okay, so right now we're going to draw the first ray diagram, which is going to be object at infinity. So object at infinity here, it means that our incident ray has to be parallel. Alright, when the incident ray are parallel, that would be object from infinity, and I just wrote the axis of lens and I wrote the optical center over here. Okay, so let's go forward a bit. Okay, so my first line would actually be passing through the center of the the optical center at this particular position there. So what I did was actually to draw a line, right, directly passing through the center of the lens. Okay, so I'm just going to draw one straight line passing through the center of the lens. Okay, once I've already drawn the line, draw the arrow before and after the lens, so it's very important. Then only you can get the 1 mark here. Okay, so the next line is actually to draw the second parallel line. So if you would notice, I actually draw so that it touches every single diagonal corners of the graph, so it's easy for me to match the parallel line. So the next line is going to be passing through the focal point first. So now I'm passing through the focal point. And from parallel, alright, to the first ray, alright, passing through the focal point and stop at the axis of the lens and then parallel to the principal axis. So draw the arrow as well. So as you can see, there's an intersection point over here, but for practice purposes, I'm going to draw the third ray as well. Okay. Alright, so I actually drew the image first. Okay, so for this particular image, you would notice that this image, you start drawing from the principal axis downwards to the intersection of the two rays, and that particular position I draw the arrowhead and label the image I. Okay, so that would be my two rays, the rays that I actually use to draw this particular ray diagram, an object at infinity. So in this particular case, next is I'm going to tell you the characteristic of this. Alright, so the characteristic of this particular ray diagram, it is actually, if you looked over here, the object is on the left hand side. So what happens here is when the object is on the left hand side, the image is formed at the right hand side. Okay, let me have a highlighter, laser point. Okay, so when the image is located on the right hand side, when object and image is on opposite sides of the lens, the image is actually known as a real image. Alright, so that is actually a real image. Then initially the object is actually pointing at the top. Now the image is pointing bottom, so that is what we call inverted. And lastly is actually because object and infinity, which means example is the stars. So when it is actually formed, the object actually reduced in size, and we actually use the word diminished. Alright, so the characteristic of this image form is real, inverted, and diminished. So this is actually for the first part. So I'm going to pause this for a while.